When your eyes flutter open every morning, what's the first thought that pierces your mind? Is it the amber bottle of painkillers glaring from your nightstand, or the suffocating weight of your body, chained by chronic pain? You're not alone. Millions are trapped in this vicious cycle. Pain pills more pain. But what if I told you that 2,500 years ago, the Buddha cracked the code to healing suffering at its root? No pills required. Modern science now confirms his wisdom. Pain isn't your life sentence. It's a messenger. And today, I'll share 5 golden keys from the Buddha's teachings, backed by neuroscience, to silence that messenger forever. If you believe chronic pain will haunt you until your last breath, close this video now. But if you dare to whisper, "Could I truly free myself?" Stay with me. By the end of this journey, you'll hold a revolutionary map, blending meditation, breathwork, mindful nutrition, restorative sleep, and conscious movement to reprogram your body's response to pain. This isn't about masking symptoms, but rewriting your relationship with your flesh and bones. Imagine waking up not as a prisoner, but as a compassionate guardian of your body. Sound impossible? Science says otherwise. So let me ask you, why does pain amplify when you fight it? The answer lies in your brain's survival wiring and the Buddha's insight into breaking free. Let's dive deeper. Method 1. Meditation, the brain's pain-off switch. 20 years ago, during a silent retreat in the misty mountains of Nepal, I learned a lesson that shattered my understanding of suffering. I'd spent days battling migraines so severe I could barely sit upright. My teacher, a wrinkled monk with eyes like calm lakes, handed me a rusty bell and said, "Ring this each time the pain peaks. But first, listen to it." Confused, I obeyed. By the 3rd ring, something shifted. The pain wasn't gone, but my fear of it had dissolved. For the first time, I realized pain isn't the enemy. Resistance is. Modern neuroscience now echoes this ancient truth. When we fight pain, the amygdala, the brain's fear guard dog, triggers a cortisol tsunami, amplifying suffering. Psychologists call this the pain-fear loop. Hurt, panic, more hurt. It's like pouring gasoline on a spark. But Buddhism offers a counterintuitive fix. Stop. Breathe. Observe. Meditation isn't about bliss. It's about rewiring the brain's threat radar. A 2016 Harvard study found that just 8 weeks of mindfulness shrinks the amygdala, while thickening the prefrontal cortex, the zone of rational choice. Translation? You physically become less reactive to pain. Here's where the law of attraction sneaks in. By focusing on the pain, not away from it, you shift from "this will destroy me" to "this is a teacher." Your mind, no longer hijacked by fear, begins to magnetize resilience. I witnessed this in a student named Lena who suffered chronic back pain. She'd scream into pillows during flare-ups until I taught her Vipassana, body scanning. One night, mid-crisis, she thanked her pain. "It's showing me where I've ignored my limits," she whispered. Within months, her painkiller use dropped 70%. But here's the twist no guru will tell you. Meditation can backfire if you're fueling toxicity elsewhere. Years ago, I mentored a CEO who meditated religiously, then drowned his stress in whiskey and steak. His migraines worsened, and his anger erupted. Why? The brain isn't a separate entity. It's fed by the gut. Every greasy meal, every toxin, sends inflammatory signals that scream, "Danger," to the nervous system. Meditation became his spiritual band-aid, masking a festering wound. This brings us to a brutal truth. Peace of mind starts with what's on your plate. You can't meditate your way out of a self-poisoned body, which is why Method 2 isn't about chanting, it's about chewing. Because what you eat today either chains you to suffering or hands you the master key to freedom. Method 2. Eat like a Zen master. Food as compassionate energy. 10 winters ago, I nearly lost a disciple to a bowl of soup. Mira was a fiery yoga instructor who'd mastered advanced postures but couldn't tame her cravings. During a retreat in Kyoto, she collapsed mid-meditation, her joints swollen like overripe fruit. The doctor blamed chronic inflammation, but Mira scoffed. "I'm vegan. I eat clean." Yet her clean diet was 70% soy mock meats and agave syrup, foods marketed as holy but laced with industrial seed oils. I brewed her turmeric tea that night and whispered, "The Buddha didn't starve. He chose ***. Her tears fell into the cup. She'd forgotten. Food isn't virtue. It's vibration. Modern science cracks this code. Processed sugars and factory-farmed oils activate the IL-6 gene, a biological alarm bell that floods your body with inflammatory fire. It's why a 2021 UCLA study found that chronic pain patients eating the standard American diet had pain levels 4x higher than those on anti-inflammatory meals. But here's the twist. Your fork is also a wand. Curcumin in turmeric inhibits pain enzymes 10x more effectively than aspirin. Broccoli sprouts contain sulforaphane, a compound that detoxifies fear by flushing cortisol. Every bite whispers to your DNA, heal or burn. Buddhism frames this as a hara, nutriment. The Buddha taught that food shapes not just the body, but the mind's clarity. In the Vitakkasanthana Sutta, he warns, impure food breeds impure thoughts. Modern psychology agrees. A 2019 trial revealed that subjects eating Mediterranean-style diets, rich in omega-3s, leafy greens, scored 30% higher on emotional resilience tests. Why? Your gut produces 90% of serotonin, the calmness chemical. Poison your gut, and you poison your peace. This isn't about perfection, it's about alignment. I teach the 80-20 rule. 80% anti-inflammatory superfoods, kale, wild salmon, berries, 20% joy, dark chocolate, your grandma's pie. But here's the secret even nutritionists miss. How you eat matters more than what. A Harvard study split participants into two groups. One ate organic salads while stressed, the other ate burgers while laughing. Guess who had lower inflammation markers? The burger group. Stress turns kale into poison. Gratitude turns bread into nectar. That's where the law of attraction merges with chopsticks. Before each meal, I've trained students to pause and whisper, "Thank you for becoming me." This 3-second ritual activates the vagus nerve, the body's chill switch, slowing heart rate and boosting digestion. I tested this with a CEO who suffered from IBS. After a month of eating mindfully, no diet changes. His pain dropped 50%. "It's like my gut finally trusts me," he stammered. Exactly. Your body mirrors your reverence. But here's the hook that terrifies my students. You can eat like a saint and still rot. Take Javier, a raw food zealot who juiced kale daily, then pulled all-nighters gaming. His inflammation markers skyrocketed. Why? Light pollution at night slashes melatonin, a hormone that repairs cells and soothes pain. Without sleep, your kale might as well be candy. Which reveals the brutal truth. No nutrient can compensate for a life out of rhythm. You can meditate and eat gold leaf chlorella, but if you're burning the candle at both ends, you're building a temple on quicksand. And that's why Method 3 isn't about what you consume, but what you surrender. Method 3. Sleep before 10 p.m. The Buddhist secret to cellular rebirth. 5 years ago, I met a man who believed he could outrun pain with sheer willpower. His name was Raj, a former Marine turned CEO who meditated daily and ate like a monk, yet his sciatica raged like a wildfire. "I'm doing everything right," he growled, fists clenched. Then I asked, "When do you sleep?" He smirked. 3 a.m. My best ideas come at night. What Raj didn't realize, his genius hours were devouring his body. The Buddha's pre-dawn awakenings weren't about austerity. They were rooted in biological genius. Modern science confirms that 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. is the golden repair window. Melatonin surges, growth hormone rebuilds tissues, and glymphatic fluids flush brain toxins like a cosmic car wash. A 2023 Pain Journal study found that chronic pain sufferers sleeping 7+ hours before midnight reported 30% less agony than night owls. Why? During deep sleep, your body produces IL-10, a cytokine that smothers inflammation. Miss this window, and you're not just tired, you're inflaming your nerves. But here's the hook. You can't medicate your way back into rhythm. Raj learned this the hard way. Despite his strict diet and meditation, his 3 a.m. hustle kept cortisol levels nuclear. One night, mid-email, his back spasmed so violently he couldn't stand. The ER doctor shrugged. "Your MRI's clean. It's your lifestyle." Desperate, Raj agreed to my Buddha sleep protocol. 1. Kill red lights by 8 p.m. Buddha forbade eating after noon. We ban blue light after sunset. Why? A single hour of smartphone use post-dinner slashes melatonin by 23%. Harvard, 2022. I gave Raj amber glasses and a $5 alarm clock. No screens after 8 p.m. Let your pineal gland pray. 2. Right side sleeping. The Buddha entered parinirvana lying on his right side. Not symbolism, but neuroscience. Sleeping rightward unclenches the heart, boosts lymphatic drainage, and aligns the spine. Raj resisted. I'm a lefty. But after 3 nights, his snoring vanished. 3. 5-minute surrender meditation. Repeat. I permit this body to rest, I instructed. At first, Raj scoffed. But by night 5, tears soaked his pillow. It's like, my muscles finally believe they're safe, he whispered. Psychology calls this safety conditioning. By replacing I must fight pain with I allow healing, you disarm the amygdala's panic button. Within a month, Raj's pain scores halved. But the real miracle? His useless early mornings became sacred. At 4 a.m., he'd sip tea, watching dawn break. His ideas now born of stillness, not strife. Here's where the law of attraction gets eerie. Sleep researcher Dr. Matthew Walker found that people who believe they slept well, even if they didn't, show lower inflammation. Your mind doesn't just reflect reality, it creates it. By surrendering to rest, you signal, I trust life to renew me. The universe mirrors that trust. But, plot twist, even perfect sleep fails if you resent it. Take Lena, a nurse who followed the protocol rigidly, yet seethed at losing her Netflix time. Her cortisol stayed high, pain was persistent. Why? The Buddha taught upekkha, equanimity, not rules, but release. Only when Lena replaced, I have to sleep, with I get to heal, did her labs shift. This unveils Buddhism's core truth. Pain isn't your body's betrayal, it's its love letter. Ignore its whispers, and it'll scream. But when you align with life's rhythm, eating, resting, flowing, you don't just manage pain. You alchemize it into wisdom. But a river's power lies not in stillness alone. It's the dance between rest and motion. Next, you'll discover how pain dissolves when you move, not against life, but as life itself. Method 4. Wisdom in motion. Walking meditation. The monk's movement ritual. 20 years ago, during a monsoon retreat in the Himalayas, I discovered a truth that reshaped my understanding of healing. I'd spent weeks battling sciatica, my legs numb and fiery. One dawn, my teacher handed me a staff and ordered, walk, but feel every pebble. Reluctantly, I shuffled forward. By the 10th step, pain morphed into rhythm. My breath synced with my strides, and suddenly, movement wasn't escape, it was communion. The Buddha didn't just sit, he walked. For hours. Across kingdoms. This was Kankamana, walking meditation, not exercise, but embodied wisdom. Modern science now decodes why. Endorphins, our natural painkillers, spike 300% during rhythmic walking. Journal of Pain Research, 2020. Lymphatic flow doubles, flushing inflammatory waste from joints. Neuroplasticity rewires pain pathways when steps sync with breath. But here's the catch neuroscience misses. Walking isn't healing unless it's sacred. The Buddha's middle way rejects extremes. Not stillness or motion, but their marriage. A 2023 Stanford study found distracted walkers, phone scrollers, gained zero pain relief, while mindful walkers dropped discomfort by 42%. Why? Fractured attention fractures healing. Buddhist psychology frames this as sati sampajana, mindful awareness. Each step becomes a dialogue. Soul to soil. Pressing your foot isn't mechanics, it's grounding. Nerve endings in the feet relay safety signals to the brain, silencing the amygdala's panic. 3-3 breath. Inhale for 3 steps. Exhale for 3. This primes the vagus nerve, the body's chill switch, slowing heart rate and dilating blood vessels. Silent smile, curling lips upward, even faintly, tricks the brain into releasing serotonin. It's not fakery, it's neuroalchemy. The law of attraction seeps in through cadence. By walking with pain, not from it, you emit a frequency. I am whole, even here. I've witnessed arthritic monks outpace gym rats, their secret lying not in speed, but in micro-savored moments. Each mindful step whispers to the universe, this body is worthy of grace. Yet, here's the twist, walking meditation can backfire as performance. I once taught a CEO who stomped laps while barking into his headset. His inflammation worsened. Why? The Buddha's Kankamano wasn't about distance. It was surrender to the present. Stress hormones nullify endorphins. Rage negates rhythm. Only when he paused, felt moss underfoot, and breathed the Himalayan air did his lab shift. This mirrors the Zen proverb. When walking, just walk. Your cells don't care about Fitbit goals. They crave presence. Modern life hijacks walking into transit. Buddhism reclaims it as prayer in motion. Method 5. Forest bathing. Compassionate therapy for your cells. 3 summers ago, I met a woman named Clara who believed her chronic pain had sentenced her to a life indoors. A former dancer, she now spent her days in a wheelchair, her joints swollen and fiery. Nature's overrated, she snapped when I suggested a walk in the park. But during a retreat, I challenged her. What if the forest isn't a place, but a state of mind? Reluctantly, she agreed to sit under a maple tree for 10 minutes. What happened next rewrote her story and taught me a truth science is only beginning to grasp. The Buddha called trees silent teachers of impermanence. Their roots mirror our veins, their seasons, our cycles of suffering and renewal. Modern research now validates this poetry. Japanese scientists discovered that phytoncides, aromatic oils released by trees, boost natural killer, NK, cells by 40% within 30 minutes of exposure. These cells hunt down inflamed tissues and pathogens, acting like microscopic healers. A 2021 study in Environmental Health Perspectives found that chronic pain patients who forest bathed 15 minutes daily reported 50% less reliance on painkillers than the control group. Why? Phytoncides don't just heal. They reprogram your immune system to target pain at its source. But Clara's breakthrough wasn't just biochemical. As she pressed her palm against the maple's bark, tears streamed down her face. "It's alive," she whispered. Buddhism teaches pratityasamutpada, interdependent co-arising. In that moment, Clara didn't just touch a tree. She felt the universe's pulse in her cells. Her amygdala, hijacked by years of pain, finally quieted. Psychology explains this as attention restoration theory. Nature's fractal patterns, leaves, branches, gently engage the brain without overstimulating it, lowering cortisol by 28%. University of Michigan, 2022. Here's where the law of attraction becomes visceral. By immersing in the forest's energy, you align with its frequency of growth and resilience. Clara began whispering, "I am rooted, I am strong," during her baths. Within weeks, her pain flares halved. But the true twist? She didn't need the forest. On stormy days, I taught her to visualize sunlight filtering through leaves while inhaling cedarwood oil. fMRI scans later showed her brain lit up identically to real forest exposure, proving imagination is a biological force. This mirrors the Buddha's teaching on samatha, calm abiding. Pain thrives on resistance, but when Clara dissolved the boundary between self and tree, her nervous system stopped fighting. Neuroscientist Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett confirms, the brain doesn't care if input is real. It cares if the story is coherent. By rewriting her narrative from victim to ecosystem, Clara's cells followed suit. Yet, here's the hook skeptics ignore. Forest bathing can fail if approached as a task. Take Mark, a lawyer who forced himself into the woods daily, cursing bugs and mud. His inflammation markers rose. Why? The Buddha warned against syllabata paramesa, clinging to rituals. Only when Mark swapped, "I have to heal for I get to connect," did his labs shift. This reveals nature's ultimate lesson. Healing isn't something you do, it's someone you become. Whether under a canopy or at your window, you're not just breathing air. You're exchanging energy with ancient giants who've survived storms. Their resilience becomes yours. Let's pause and breathe. What have we uncovered? 5 non-negotiable truths. Your breath can silence pain's scream. Your plate can be a pharmacy. Your sleep can rebuild cells. Your movement can rewrite neural pathways. And your mind? It's the ultimate alchemist. The Buddha didn't just teach this. He lived it, walking through chronic pain, as recorded in the Pali Canon, with unwavering equanimity. Science now confirms, your body speaks the language of energy, not just chemistry. So tonight, as you lie down, Ask yourself, am I treating my body as a prison or a temple? Here's your challenge. Pick one method. Meditate for 5 minutes, swap one inflammatory meal, or walk mindfully tomorrow. Then, comment, I choose to heal, because your words shape your reality. Hello, Law of Attraction. Share this video with someone drowning in pain. Why? Because healing isn't solitary, it's a ripple effect. And if you haven't subscribed yet, tap that button. Your journey has just begun. Remember, you're not just watching a video. You're igniting a revolution, cell by cell.